Looking for invertebrates doesn't always take you, or at least it doesn't always take me to the most glamorous of locations. This is the side of the A614, and this is one of the most spectacular bluebell woodlands that we have. Unfortunately, it has to compete with all this rubbish and litter which is discarded from cars and lorries using the lay by the man currently sitting in. Which is sometimes worrying because places like this you never know exactly what you're sitting in. I want to dip into this before the bluebells come out properly and look for one of my favourites of invertebrates. It's a shame that sometimes sites like this, even nature tries to cover up the eyesore created by man, but ultimately it fails. We took out more rubbish and faster than nature can cover it up. Still, it makes an effort. Not often you get a moment of peace and quiet in these woods, and this will be very short-lived too. But if you can bear the noise, and if you like harvestmen and like things with 8 legs, you're in for a treat if you come to this strip of mixed woodland here on the edge of Columba Park, right at the side of the busy A614. Species that I've come here today for is a species which I come and look for every year and several times each year, and it's a harvestman Platybunus pinetorum, which I found new to Nottinghamshire a number of years ago now, and ever since I've surveyed for it and looked for it wherever I go. But this is the regular site, and I believe that this is the best site technically in terms of numbers for Platybunus pinetorum in the UK. Had triple figure counts in excess of 100 and 200 on a number of occasions, but I'm looking for my first 2 this year, and I don't have to go very far because they're only just here at the side of me. And here's our first view of this wonderful harvestman Platybunus pinetorum. I love harvestmen, and Dillis and I did lots of work on recording Nottinghamshire's harvestmen, and I still believe that there are a couple of species about to appear in Nottinghamshire at some time. They are on their way and should be looked for. And a few years ago I found Platybunus pinetorum here new to Nottinghamshire, not far from where I live at Market Walsop. It was actually at Gleethorpe at Holborn Hill Plantation. Since then found it in a number of sites, but the most prolific site is here on the edge of Columba Park and the 614. And this subadult Platybunus pinetorum is one of 2 that are low down on the trunk of this beech tree. They are a lot easier to see on smooth bark trees, but they are beautifully marked. Well, here's the other one of the 2 that are presently on this tree. The other one's going for a bit of a wander actually. But this one's totally at rest. The body is pressed tightly against the trunk, and the legs likewise identically marked almost, and you can see that chestnut ocularum and how it stands out. These spend the day resting on the trunks of trees, the overwintering stages in the leaf litter around the base of these trees, and you can find anything up to about a dozen or so individuals on one particular tree. And the interesting thing about them, there are no males, at least over the majority of the UK. One was recorded, I think it was near Holmfirth a number of years ago, but I don't know if anybody's seen any or found any since. So all the Platybunus pinetorum that you're ever likely to see if you go out and look for these are females. And so they reproduce by parthenogenesis, or words to that effect. It's a super species. I was astonished a few years ago to find Nottinghamshire's first. Always wanted to, didn't think I would, but I did. And much work since has revealed it to have a good range in Nottinghamshire, and a range linked by roadside woodlands with pull-in bays or parking bays. It's certainly a key factor in the Mansfield area, but the range does extend down the A614 down to just north of Nottingham. Is it elsewhere in Nottinghamshire? I think it is. It's just that nobody's looking for it. You can never escape the noise of the traffic here. It's a shame that it's right at the side of such a busy road, but it can't be helped. And as I mentioned before, that many of the sites that we have the Platybunus pinetorum here in Nottinghamshire are against main roads, or rather busy roads, and especially where those roads have lay-bys, and those lay-bys are adjacent to woodland. It's an almost guarantee that you'll find Platybunus pinetorum, certainly in this part of Nottinghamshire. I've just run the 2 so far today, but it is early days. It's only March the 18th, I think it is today, and so the subadults are just starting to venture up the trunks of trees, and over the coming weeks they will be an easier and more common find than they seem to be today. But we didn't have good numbers here last year. I came to do a survey, and must admit I was fully expecting a 3-figure count, and I don't think I got much more than 50 on the whole of this strip of deciduous woodland. I don't know what happened to them, whether they've gone up into the canopy more, but they don't usually they're always within about 8 feet of the ground on the trunks of the smooth bark trees. So what Platybunus pinetorum is going to do this year in terms of numbers, I don't know. One thing that does seem to affect them is undergrowth, and each of the last few years since I've been coming to this particular site, that undergrowth is changing and the bramble is starting to become dominant. One thing I have noticed since looking for and studying Platybunus pinetorum is that they prefer little or no understory. They can tolerate bluebells and a few other little bits, and that's about it. When you get lots of brambles and they start to take over the understory, Platybunus seems to move out. But Platybunus pinetorum also seems to have been the cause of other species moving out. At one time, some sites where you just get Platybunus pinetorum, it's driven species out, or at least off the tree trunks, species like Rileyana triangularis, which for a time was lumped in with Platybunus pinetorum, and somebody didn't like it in there and decided no, it's Rileyana again, and I dare say someone will come along in a few years time and change it back again. But that's taxonomists for you. But as the bramble starts to increase here, it could be that Platybunus pinetorum has to look elsewhere, and it is quite widespread in the Clumber Park and Sherwood Forest areas. So we'll see what a year it has in 2026. Well, I've gone full circle, and there's just the one here on the tree. Where our wandering individual that was on here earlier on has gone, I don't know. Probably down into the leaf litter. But hopefully there will be more than the 3 that I've had today. It was just a very brief, half-hearted sort of survey. I just wanted to see Platybunus pinetorum for the first time this year. But 3 gets us off the mark. How will this population do during the course of the next few months? This is very much a spring species, of course. You can find it over winter by taking leaf litter samples from the base of trees where you know Platybunus pinetorum has been on, and you can find the juveniles quite often in that leaf litter sample. But the adults to look forward to, spectacularly marked and bigger. It's bigger than this one.